Ninth grade honors English class. The teacher didn't like me. Only teacher I ever had that didn't like me. Others would get frustrated with how my lack of effort at times, but still liked me as a person. She just flat out didn't like me. One of the reasons was that she didn't like athletes because they would miss her class regularly for travel for games. And I played 3 sports, so I was missing a good bit. Now, I was also missing for academic stuff like math, science competitions, and quiz bowl tournaments, but she was particularly bothered about missing for sports. Case in point. She would intentionally double the amount of homework due the day after long away games, knowing that the players wouldn't have the time to finish it all. And shocker, she didn't check homework every single day, but always checked after away games. I've written about her before, but she also would give me 70s and low 80s on papers without any red marks on them, but people around me would have red marks all over their paper and would have 90s. After one particularly low grade on an assignment that I knew I had actually done really well on, I inquired about it. Her exact response was that I was only doing 70% of my ultimate capability and the others were doing 90% of theirs. So I specifically asked, "Does that mean my paper can be better than someone else's but be 20+ points lower?" And she said yes. And to show this wasn't just me misunderstanding things, she recommended me for an advanced writing class a year earlier than students were supposed to be able to take it. So if those 2 things weren't bad enough, she gave us an opportunity for extra credit toward the end of the year. We had to go to a local college's rendition of Antigone, write a 2,500-word paper on it and tie it into what we discussed in class on the play, and also turn in our ticket and play bill. It was due on a Monday, and the play was only going on Friday, Sunday, so there was no way to turn it in ahead of time. But I was going to miss class that Monday all day for an academic competition, representing the school, and it was the biggest one of the year, like had to place top 10 in a previous competition to qualify. So it's obviously an excused absence. I told her for an entire week prior to the play that I was going to miss on Monday, and she told me multiple times to turn it in first thing Tuesday morning. So I go to the play, write the paper, go to the academic competition Monday, and place first in one category and second in another, and then Tuesday morning before basketball workouts at 7 a.m., I go to her room to turn in the assignment. She refuses to take it because it's late, and she didn't recall ever suggesting that I could turn it in on Tuesday, she told me 4 times. Her reasoning: 1. Another student that missed for the competition was able to turn it in, but that student lived across the street from the school. I lived 20 minutes away and couldn't drive. 2. My mom was a teacher at the school, so I could have just sent it with her. Except I had been told to turn it in Tuesday, so there was no reason for me to think to have my mom turn in my assignment for me. Plus, she has her own students and classes to worry about. 3. I could have done the work Monday evening, which wouldn't be fair to the other students. So I went into the metadata for the paper that showed the last time it had been saved was Saturday afternoon. She still refused to grant me any credit for it. So I was out the $25 for the ticket, the time that it took, plus it really inconvenienced my mom who had to pick me up Friday from practice, rush me home to shower and change, then rush me back downtown for the play, and then come pick me up again 2 hours later. So my mom was pretty pissed about it too. This teacher also prided herself on the fact that nobody had ever made an A on her final exam. She thought she was the toughest teacher ever. Really, she just loaded students up with a bunch of busy work. So the last day of class, she gave a few minutes at the end of class and asked, "What's your biggest wish?" to the class as a whole. I piped up, "I wish for an A on the exam," and she laughed and said, "Yay, and I wish for $1 million and not to have to deal with you anymore." So all of that sets up the final exam. It's 100 questions and then a 5-point bonus question that asked those generic, "What was your favorite part of the class? What did you learn?" etc. We got 2 hours to take the exam, and students that finished early had to wait until 1 hour was up, so that there was just 1 point of people getting up and leaving, rather than being distracting throughout. So I finished the 100 questions in about 20 minutes. So I spent the remaining part of the hour just blasting her in the bonus question. I said that I'm not sure I learned anything and pointed to her never making any comments on how to improve my writing. I said my favorite part of the class was it finally being over and not having to deal with her shit anymore, and brought up a number of other little things that happened on top of that mentioned above. And I said that she was by far the worst teacher I had ever had, and that the school is worse off with her teaching the entire 9th grade. The bell rings for the hour, and I'm the only person of the entire 1 to 10 students to leave at the hour mark. Now, on exam days, the teacher doesn't proctor their own exam so that they are available to answer questions or if the classes are split among different rooms. So I have to wait for my mom to finish proctoring a different exam, so I'm just sitting out in Breezeway. The The teacher finds me, holding my exam, with tears in her eyes, and tells me to meet her in the principal's office. She then storms off, so I head over. As I'm waiting there, I recount what happened to the soccer coach who is sitting there because he made some comment about, "Surprised to see you sent in here." Eventually, she comes back in with my mom, who she pulled out of proctoring an exam, and we all go in to see the principal. She's crying, screaming, literally choking every minute or so. After about 45 minutes of me spilling everything I'd gone through that year, all things I'd already vented to my mom about plenty of times, the principal finally looks at her and goes, "How much was the question worth?" She said 5 bonus points, and he says, "Then just don't give him the bonus points." So I made a 98 on the final instead of a 103. Missed 2 questions. Every other student got the bonus points, and the next highest grade was an 81. Thinking she would get the last laugh, I noticed a few days before grades were due that one of my assignments from the second week of class all the way back in August had been dropped 10 points. My final grade ended up being a 94.4, which was a B at the time, but I couldn't prove that she had altered my grade. I just had them in a spreadsheet to determine my grade ahead of time. Should have been a 95.2, but nothing that would prove anything. Since I could have just typed it wrong, I didn't. The summer after, the school decided to change to a 10-point scale, and so 90 plus was an A, so my B became an A. She also had to have her homework assignments each week signed off by the department chair, and she had to start accepting assignments via email. 2 years later, she was fired after other students started having real issues with her. Prior to me, the administration just thought it was a case of students complaining about the hard teacher. Still think she deserved every bit of it, but I certainly didn't think it would set in motion her getting fired. Though, again, she deserved it. Hopefully people are still reading. She sucked. Story 2. In elementary school, there was a bully kid who would make fun of me. I had a bad bowl cut and was pretty small, so it wasn't surprising. Me and my friends usually just ignored him. Anyway, one day, this kid from Brazil moved into the house next to mine. He was a year older. We used to play soccer together every day after school. I mentioned to him once that this kid would call me names, and usually while walking home from school would follow behind me, taunting me. One day I'm leaving school and this kid is going slowly behind me on his bike shouting stuff, just dumb kid stuff, you know? Brazil kid comes out of nowhere, knocks the kid off his bike and just starts beating him. Bully is on the grass crying and bleeding. Brazil kid grabs the bike and gives it to me. "You can keep this," and then walks away. I didn't know what to do. I just laid the bike next to the kid and walked home. He wasn't at school for like a week. Later in life, I found that kid had a really crappy home situation with abusive parents. I was 10 at the time. Always felt bad for that. Quit bullying me, though. I still occasionally see that Brazilian guy. Don't think he even remembers it. Cool on him for helping in his way. I just think it went too far. I was dating this girl, and my friend saw her around town a few times and humiliated her in an effort to embarrass me. I told him to stop bothering her, but he did it again. That night, I convinced him to try getting back together with his wildly insane and manipulative ex that he hadn't spoken to in years, thinking that he would just humiliate himself by trying. Well, they banged and got back together for a while, and had a baby. Now they're terrible single parents. My friends and I used to pull a lot of pranks on each other growing up, and about 10 years ago, I was helping my buddy set up a new business. He was ordering business cards, and the company he was going through was offering, I think, 500 or so free, with a large order. So we decided to prank our other friend. We made business cards with his name, phone number, home address, and had his job title as professional creep, with the slogan, "If I'm creepin', you ain't sleepin'." We passed these cards out all over town. He was getting really harassing phone calls for a while and couldn't figure out why. After about 2 years, he found one of the cards on a random fridge at a party and put 2 and 2 together. He was pissed and is still getting random calls 10 years later. I feel really bad about that one. Had a lawyer a few years back who was a piece of absolute shit. Would go months between returning phone calls, constantly late with court filings, to the point the courts multiple times moved to have the case dismissed from lack of action, lied to me constantly about anything and everything, refused to be fired. Seriously, when I told him he was fired, he just ignored me and kept presenting himself as my lawyer. I had to get the courts involved to get him to stop. Lied about me. Our client has been unreachable. We are considering dropping them. I tried to call you 84 times in the last 3 months, and you didn't answer or return a single one. When I finally did fire him, he told me I had to be in court on a specific date. That didn't work for me. At a specific time. That didn't work for me. Or else the motion to withdraw wouldn't be accepted. So I got to the courtroom, and the judge was super nice but confused as to why I was there, and when I told him the story, the judge just goes, "Yay, this is all done electronically. Not sure why your lawyer would tell you that other than to be a dick." Needless to say, by the end of all this, I was pissed and wrote a 10-page bar complaint about 4 different lawyers and their office's unethical behavior. Well, the Bar Association decided this was a firm-wide encouraged pattern of behavior and threw the book at the 4 partners. Disbarred for 5 years, restitution to clients, and only allowed to practice under supervision for a period of 5 years after they return. I felt a little bad, but goddamn, I was so fucking sick of being jerked around. My father and cousins were walking home from school. Well, my brother and I were walking, and my cousins were on bikes. They kept circling us and making fun of us because we didn't have bikes. One of my cousins then spits on me. Out of reflex, I blasted her with my trumpet case and she went flying, landed on the concrete, and broke her arm. I felt awful. It was the first and last time I ever hit a girl. My family believed every word of the story, knew this cousin was always a total bitch to me, and largely believed she had it coming. I still felt awful, though. When I was in 5th grade, my teacher gave out a shit ton of homework one day, so I got the whole class to help me write a letter to the principal. She found out and cried and shit. I felt really horrible because she was just trying to get us ready for a test coming up. I still feel really bad every time I think about it. Hey, thanks for watching. If you have made it this far into the video, don't forget to like and subscribe for more daily Reddit stories. See you in the next one.